What is going on, everyone? Welcome back again for episode number 8 of the Depthsposting podcast. Today I have Ashton. She is a photographer based out of Atlanta. She does amazing photography. She's also had a couple notable features across, our scene, which we'll definitely get into. And so just because of that, I kind of just really just want to get into the conversation here. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Ashton.
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me, my time is now. In case you forgot or fell off, I'm still hot, knock your shell off. My money stacked fat, plus I can't turn the swell off. The franchise doing big business, I live this, it's automatic. I win this, so you hear those horns, you finished. A soldier, and I stay under you fighting. Plus I'm storming on these trumps like I'm thunder and lightning. Ain't no way you breaking me, kid, I'm harder than nails. Plus I keep it on lock like I'm part of the jail. I'm slaughtering stale competition. I got the whole block wishing they could run with my division, but they go.
Hello?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alright. I'm okay. I'm just waking up, so...
Oh.
No, I woke up at 1:30. I was like, oh, I have to do something in about a half hour. So I took a shower and brushed teeth and everything, and I'm just like, oh man. And I walked outside and it's lightly snowing.
Yeah, it's all melting here. We got a couple inches last night.
Yeah, it's just starting here, so I don't know.
Oh, fun.
Yep, can't wait. So, other than that, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Just been chilling.
How are you enjoying your time off?
It's pretty much always time off.
I got you. Alright, so go ahead and dive right into it. So I think the thing I really want to get started with is what was your background like? Like, what was growing up for you like, and then leading into what you do now. Like, I think a lot of people probably know that you're into concert photography. That's pretty much is that like your main what's like your main job, your main yeah.
For now it is. I took a photography class in high school, and funny enough, I didn't do very well in it. I got a C, and so, but I mean, I still liked photography, obviously, and so, I only had a little point-and-shoot camera, but, then when I graduated high school, I got, a DSLR, and I didn't know how to use that, really, so I just kind of, put off using it until I saw one of my friends bring her camera to a concert and just shoot from the crowd, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And so I took my camera to a concert, Yellow Card actually, and luckily this girl in the crowd was also a photographer, and she was just taking a night off, and she was like, hey, here's what you have to do. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. And so that was almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in February on the 7th. And yeah, since then, I obviously started trying to build up my portfolio, and I didn't even really think about applying to any publications. That wasn't something that crossed my mind. It was just something I wanted to do for fun. But then I had a publication reach out to me just a few months into me doing concert photography, and they're like, hey, you want to be on our team? And I was like, heck yeah. So I joined them, and I started getting photo passes. So and I've obviously learned a lot. I've constantly been learning, and that's pretty much where I am today. I'd like to say that my stuff has gotten a lot better. I finally found my style. after a few years.
So, yeah, no, when I was like simmering before, I was trying to say occupation. I was like, I could not think of that word. But yeah, no, it does. Yeah, you definitely have an interesting occupation. So,
For sure.
yeah. So, what were you doing before then? Did you have anything interesting going on?
Nah, I mean, I graduated college like, oh, man, it's already been a year and a half. So I graduated college a year and a half ago. So I was doing this before I even like graduated college. So I haven't really had a chance to do anything else. I mean, I do like graphic design and stuff on the side or whatever. But yeah, I kind of do those like side by side. One doesn't like take precedence over the other.
I got you. So, like, what are some of your So, I mean, obviously you've done quite a bit of work doing what you're doing. So, like, what is some of the most memorable moments that you've had doing, doing what you do? Like what would be some of the, like what are some of the most memorable concerts that you've shot?
Ooh. Last year I got to photograph my first festival that wasn't Warped Tour, Shaky Knees. That was very fun. It was supposed to rain all weekend, but it rained for maybe 10 minutes the whole weekend, and it was just very, very mild weather. It was very nice because Atlanta can be pretty brutal, even in the spring. That was a lot of fun, and I shot Imagine Dragons just a couple months ago in November. That was my first arena show that I shot. Their production was insane. It was so much fun. Oh, man, there was another one that I was thinking of. Oh, this is going to bug me. Oh, well, yeah. Those two. Oh, Issues at the Buckhead Theater. Their production was pretty insane, too. I took, I'm pretty sure like half of my profile is photos from that show now. Like, I just love all of the photos that I took from it.
So wait, was that show like really high in production as well, or was it just
Issues? Yeah. I mean, they had like the two screens that kind of looked like a cube. And then they had like a riser where Josh, their drummer, was like sitting, and then they had two risers on the sides where they would like go and stand on occasion, but the lights were fantastic. And I was like talking to Tyler about it, and he was like, yeah, we specifically tailored the first 3 songs for photographers to make it easier for you guys. And I was like, well, thanks.
I think that's like the first time I've actually ever heard of like a band that tries to make it easier for the photographers.
Yeah, it was definitely a great experience, and now it's apparent why I like my photos from that show so much.
Yeah, for sure. So when you were just starting out, like I know that you said that you started out from Yellow Card, like I think from that one Yellow Card show, but like after that, when you didn't really have a guide at that point, like what was that like for you? Like just shooting a couple shows after that?
Well, I still just like shot from the crowd, and I was at like that stage in my music fan career, however you want to put it, where
you were just getting into the music sort of way.
Yeah, and so I would just like sit in line for hours to get front row, and so the venue that I go to a lot, the Masquerade, they luckily allowed like DSLR cameras into the venue, and so I just brought my camera into the venue and shot from the front row, and so I just shot like that, built up a portfolio like that, didn't need a photo pass, no one told me otherwise, so I learned that way before getting photo passes.
And after getting photo passes, was it just easier to do? Did you feel like it was
Um,
less of a process and more of just, this is just what I gotta do at this point?
uh, it really depends on the show because at the old Masquerade, like it has three rooms. It has heaven, hell, and purgatory. Hell did not have a barricade that you sat inside or stood inside, so you had to like shoot from the side of the crowd where the band kept all their equipment. It's kind of weird to explain unless you've like been in the room, but
I can kind of like paint like a visual meaning, I guess, because I kind of know what that's like. Where I was living before, I used to live in North Carolina, and we have this venue called down there called a local 506, and there's just like this little slight kind of like entryway to get the stage. Like that's where like a lot of bands usually put their gear and everything. That they have room on stage because it's not very uh, it's not that much. It's not that really that big of a stage. Honestly, I'm surprised there are bands that can fit on there because it's really not that big of a stage. But anyway, yeah. So it's like you don't have a lot of room. You don't have a lot of elbow room. You kind of just have to move. You have
right,
to work with what you can because there's not a lot of
right.
room to move.
And then, yeah, like, I mean, it was on, like, the same level as the stage, so luckily you were, like, kind of above the crowd, but at the same time, you had to shoot, like, around, like, the pillars that were, like, holding heaven up, because heaven was on top of hell. It was the room above hell, so you had to shoot, like, around that, and it was honestly, like, really difficult, and then in heaven, like, the photo pit was, like, 2 feet off the ground, so you had to squat. Um, but luckily, since they've moved, Heaven and Hell now both have full photo pits. Purgatory still doesn't have one, but I mean, that's whatever. I mean, I've learned to deal with that, so it's not a big deal.
I got you. So wait, heaven, hell, and purgatory. Those are names that people who go there made up, or that's like the actual names of the places in the venue.
Those are the actual names of the rooms in the venue.
Man, I wish that our venues here were that interesting. And even the ones in North Carolina, I wish those were interesting. Yeah, I never heard of like being like different sections, especially in a mindset like that.
Yep, we have three rooms. Heaven, the biggest one. Hell is just a little smaller. It has a balcony now. I love that. And then Purgatory, which is the smallest.
And this is at the Masquerade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that they have like the regular Masquerade and then the Masquerade underground. So which section has that?
Well, the Masquerade actually moved from 695 North Avenue to the Underground. The Underground is their permanent location now. So they're, yeah, at Kenny's Alley. And both of the locations had the three rooms, which is when they moved, they had to like find some place that had three rooms to accommodate.
And so like one thing I like to ask people like who have done photography that have been on the show is how do you guys deal with moshers and crowd surfing?
Oh boy, it was really hard at the old one because you were squatting, and so you kind of had to sit on the stage, which wasn't very attractive. But uh, the security, the Masquerade. I know I'm talking about it a lot, but that's like the main place that I go to.
Yeah, I mean when it comes to Georgia, I think that's like the only venue I actually know that I ever hear of is the Masquerade. And
Yeah,
it
I
makes me
mean,
want to go to a show there because I've heard things about it.
yeah, their security is really good. So I mean, we don't have to worry about crowd surfers too much because I mean, security, they'll pretty much catch them, and they're courteous. They'll tap you on the shoulder, be like, hey, watch out. And I mean, luckily now the photo pit is like big enough so you can like move around without like anyone obstructing your view or you obstructing security doing their job. But at the Tabernacle, I'm sorry to them, but I can't say the same. Their security definitely isn't as up to par as the Masquerades. And their photo pit is kind of crappy. Uh, I've definitely been kicked in the head by a photographer
Or
I'm not a photographer, a crowd surfer.
Okay, I was gonna say, what?
Yeah,
Were they
no.
just like jealous of your work or something, or
Like,
that would have been awkward.
yeah, it was actually, I think my first time shooting Yellow Card, from the pit. I think it was when they toured with Memphis May Fire. Whichever tour Tiger's Jaw was on.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so literally 2 seconds into Tiger's Jaws set, this guy runs in front of the barricade, runs into the photo pit, and this is at the old Masquerade, and so he runs into the photo pit, and so since it's raised, you can just like jump straight over the barricade, like no problem. And so he for sure kicked me in the head when he was jumping from the photo pit to the crowd.
Oh, no.
So I was like, thanks so much.
You have any other similar instances, things like that?
Ooh, I mean, I've had a security guard push me, but he was just kind of like a jerk in general. He doesn't work at the venue anymore. But other than that, no, my experiences have been pretty mild.
No, that's good. That's good. That's better than some of the things I have heard.
Yeah.
Like, when I was first starting out for people, like, every single time they go to a show, they weren't leaving without a concussion or some shit.
Yeah, right?
Like, man. And you're not even in the pit and you're still getting hurt.
Right? I'm a wimp. I can't do that.
I can't imagine what it's like for photographers at hardcore shows now, especially with all the crowd killing stuff now.
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, if there was, like, a hardcore show that didn't have a photo pit, I'd be like, I'm so sorry, but no. It's like, take your photo pass back. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. So, I kind of want to ask you something about the Masquerade. I know that it was kind of a hot topic in the group a couple months ago. But
Yeah.
I know that for the Masquerade, there was a shooting incident over there.
Yeah.
And I know that you, obviously, you work there a lot, done a lot of work over there. So, like, what in your mindset, like, when you heard about that, what was that like? Was that like a pretty straight up reaction, or was it kind of just like?
It wasn't surprising, to be honest, because the part of town that it moved to isn't the best part of town, and it's in an alley. So, I mean, like, anyone who isn't in the venue, like, anyone who isn't going to the concert can just, like, stand in the alley. But from, I guess, what I heard from, like, the people who worked there, it was someone who was, like, actually attending the show. So since then, I actually had to go to work there the next day because I do intern there as a graphic designer. And so the show was on a Tuesday, I believe, and then I had to go to work on, like, the Wednesday, and so it was so quiet. Like, usually everyone was, like, laughing, but, like, I mean, since that happened, the marketing director was telling, like, the other interns, he was like, dude, you can't, like, put any exclamation points in our social media posts today, just periods only. And then, like, you know, the promotions interns were just like, this sounds so depressing.
Yeah, no.
And then, luckily, since then, they have stepped up their security. There's only one way in and one way out of the alley now, and it's through security. They do bag checks now. They do pat downs. Last time I was there, which was actually, I think, in November, for the main. So it's been so long. Like, I don't think I had to have my bag checked since I, like, worked there. And security, like, saw me coming and going, but, like, they were hardcore about searching, like, anyone who they weren't familiar with. So, I mean, not to say that I'm glad that the shooting happened, but, because I'm not, because that's obviously a very, like, depressing scary thing to happen, especially at a place that you know and love. But I am glad that it did for the sake of the people attending there, because they really stepped up their security measures that I think should have been in place for quite a while.
Yeah, I know that I'm just starting now, like getting into like the scene here, so I haven't been to like every venue here yet. But I've been to this one called the Grimacy Theater, which is what we have here, and I heard that
I've heard of that.
it's actually the one of the two venues I like more here. But I've been to that like more here. Actually, no, I've been to three here. So it's weird. So where I live, it's a little bit weird. We have a venue called well, they're both called Amityville Music Hall, but one is called Amityville Music Hall. That, and it's called Amityville Music Hall Revolution, and Revolution's the bigger venue of the two. The other one's just like a DFW hall, and it's fairly small. It's not my favorite place in the world, but I've heard that even there, like they're starting to like really beef up security as well because of that incident, and I think because of all the other incidents that have taken place, recently. So I think it's just becoming more of a thing, and I think a lot of these places needed to have this to begin with. I know that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of places don't expect these things to happen but I guess with the way that the world is now. I guess
Yeah,
everybody,
it should be standard, I think. I mean, like, as much as, everyone hates, like, bag checks and,
yeah,
like, pat downs and whatever, I think it's necessary.
yeah, especially when it comes to safety. I mean, I don't think a bag check really bothers me, and I think over at Gramercy, they have like a metal detector now. It's kind of just like they just wave the little wand over you, so obviously if something comes up, then they'll check it out. But other than that, it's like a 5-second process and you're done.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, and especially if it's just going to make you safer. So.
Yeah, there's this other venue here in Atlanta called Center Stage. It has 3 rooms as well. Its other 2 stages are the Loft and Vinyl, but Center Stage, for some reason, is the only one that does bag checks. But, oh my goodness, the first time that I went there, when they had, like, after they had started doing the bag checks, I think it was for bleachers, and they do the bag check before you get to will call or whatever, which is obviously where a photo pass is going to be held. And so, like, I didn't have my photo pass, I didn't have a ticket, and so the lady was like searching my bag, and she was so rude about it. She was like, "You can't bring this in," and I'm like, "I know I'm supposed to have a photo pass. I haven't, I can't obviously get to will call yet without going through you." And she was just, like, so rude about it. It's just, like, just because she saw, like, a camera, like, she just had, like, this attitude the rest of the time that she was, like, checking my bag and just, like, nitpicking every single thing. I'm like, okay, whatever, this is uncalled for, but whatever.
I feel like I'm going to feel a little bit bad when I say this just because I don't really like making fun of people and their occupation, but I feel like people who do bag checks are, like, have, like, the same mental attitude as the people who do, like,
PSA.
polls. Or that, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was definitely really funny, like, when they, it's not funny, but it's, like, it's very ironic, in a sense, when that happens.
For sure.
But, yeah. So, I know that before you said that, you were, like, in your earlier stages of content photography, you were just getting into the music. What had led you into, getting into the scene and everything?
So pretty much throughout high school, I was, I'm not gonna lie, I stan Owl City and the Jonas Brothers. I mean, that was probably kind of expected.
I mean, if it makes you feel any more excited, I hear that they're coming back, apparently.
I heard that too. I would love it. Like, give me that photo pass. But, so, I was pretty much known as, like, the Jonas Brothers stan and the Owl City stan at the school, and so, like, I mean, I still like both the Jonas Brothers and Owl City. I will unironically listen to them today, but, I wanted to, like, venture out. And I know that like a lot of my friends listen to other stuff. And so I started listening to All Time Low because this one girl that I knew, she loved them. And so I was like, okay, All Time Low. And like I'd actually known of Yellow Card, and the Yellow Card did a tour with All Time Low then, like before I had started listening to All Time Low, because Yellow Card was actually the first band that I got into. I got into them when I was 10 years old, so I'm 23 now. Been a fan of them for over half my life, but and so Thrice was actually the second band that I got into, but I didn't like them as much as Yellow Card.
Thrice is a good band. I love Thrice. I'm excited to see what they do next, especially after the last record came out.
I actually haven't listened to it, but I like Artist in the Ambulance. I haven't listened to anything past that, but I like it enough.
No, you gotta listen to the new one. The new one's really good.
But yeah, so it was. I mean, even though I had listened to Yellow Card and I'd been a fan of them for forever, it was All Time Low basically that got me into this scene, because they did a tour with Pierce the Veil. And so I listened to Pierce the Veil, and I liked Pierce the Veil. And then I listened to Bring Me the Horizon and Of Mice and Men for the American Dream Tour, and then I got into Issues. So, like, obviously, like, one band led into another band and led into another. It obviously started with, like, the bigger, more popular bands that are, like, easier to listen to. And so, yeah. I mean, I still don't listen to, like, a ton of hardcore music. Like, I mean, there's some that I like. Like, I like Being as an Ocean. I like Silent Planet, obviously. But,
Yeah, I feel like the more heavier side of it is just not your thing. I get that. It's fine.
right. I mean, like, I'll listen to it, but, like, it has to be, like, a special occasion or whatever.
Yeah, no, I feel that. There's certain bands I'm like that with. It's like, so I'm like that, but it's a bit more with like indie music in sort of a sense. So like I couldn't even tell you like how many like I couldn't tell you like from the heart like how many indie artists I actually listen to. It's just like I'll like put on like a playlist or something, and if something comes on, I'll like it, and I'll sit it. And usually when I'm in the mood for it, then I'm like, all right, well I guess I'll just play this, and here's that.
Same.
I feel like, don't worry, I got you.
I'll listen to anything, pretty much.
I like to say that, but then again, people are always like, well, I listen to anything but country.
And
I
rap.
wasn't there. Yeah, I can't do trap either. I can't do a lot of trap. I ain't like...
Oh, I like rap. I don't...
Yeah, I like rap. I can't do trap. Like, trap and rap are two different things. I'm just like,
Yeah.
ah, man. It's just getting too much for me at this point.
Yeah.
I don't like where hip hop is going.
That mumble rap.
Yeah,
SoundCloud
especially mumble
rappers.
rap. I cannot stand it at this point. And like like my family is like the kind of family that is like super into it. And I think I'm like the only one of my family that actually listens to like in terms of like my cousins and everything, like even like, you know, anyone beyond that in my family. I'm pretty sure I'm like the only person in my family that actually listens to what I do listen to. So it's like really hard to relate to anyone in my family that listens to it.
I feel that.
But yeah, so there's all that. And I think we actually covered all the questions I really wanted to ask, because you pretty much covered a lot. So within the half hour.
Nice.
But yeah, let me go ahead and let you go.
All right. Well, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, before I let you go, you want to plug anything? Like you say you do graphic design, obviously, or concept photography stuff. So if anyone does listen and is from Georgia, they're like, oh, I guess I'll hit her up.
Well, my Instagram is Ashton Avocado, ASHTONAVOCADO, because people like to spell my name without an H, and avocado they spell with an A instead of an O. And my Twitter is Justin Jake Ashton, but without the I in Justin. My website is just ashtongarner.com, ASHTONGARNER, and that has my portfolio and all that jazz on it. My ton of different photography things, some graphic design, illustration, a little bio about me. They're into that stuff. But that's about it.
About it? All right, well, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, well, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day as well.
All right. All right, have a great day.
You too.
I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. As always, if you want to, leave any comments about, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you want to, give some feedback, whether it be positive or negative, anything works. I'm always looking to improve, always looking to tone back what you think that I shouldn't be doing. So yeah, you can leave a comment in the video. You can message me where you know to message me. You can email depthspostingpodcast@gmail.com and let me know what you think. Anyway, we'll be back next time with another episode of Depthsposting Podcast. So I will see you then.